Throughout history, there have been countless eerie tales of people encountering their own ghostly double, a phenomenon known as a doppelgänger. In folklore, doppelgängers are said to be omens of death or bad luck, a shadowy twin that mimics the living. One of the most famous instances involves none other than Abraham Lincoln. Shortly after being elected president in 1860, Lincoln glanced into a mirror and saw not one, but two reflections staring back at him. The first was his own face, strong, resolute, but the second? It was a ghostly, deathly pale version of himself, hollow-eyed and cold. His wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, deeply superstitious and attuned to the supernatural, believed the apparition was an omen of doom and a sign that her husband wouldn't complete his second term. Tragically, her fear proved true. On a fateful night in 1865, just over a month after he was inaugurated for his second term, Lincoln was assassinated at Ford's Theatre in Washington, D.C. Another chilling story is that of Percy Bysshe Shelley, the renowned English poet. It's reasonably well known that both he and his acquaintances were haunted by eerie glimpses of his own doppelganger, but none was as disturbing as the one that occurred just weeks before his death. While staying in Italy, as he wandered along the coastline, Shelley saw his own spectral double again, silent, cold, and staring at him with lifeless eyes. This time, however, the apparition raised its arm and pointed towards the water, as if beckoning him to his fate. Just weeks later, Shelley's sailing boat capsized during a violent storm and he drowned, his body lost to the very waters his doppelganger had pointed at. Even royalty isn't immune to these spectral visitors. Shortly before she died, Queen Elizabeth I is said to have seen a spectral version of herself lying motionless on her bed, almost like a corpse laid out for presentation. There's also the creepy tale of Catherine the Great, Empress of Russia, who was reportedly outraged when she saw her doppelganger sitting on her throne in 1796. Despite demanding that her guards shoot the imposter, she died soon afterwards. But perhaps the most unsettling and well-documented case of all is that of Emilie Sagée, a French schoolteacher whose doppelganger didn't just appear once, it haunted her for years, trailing fear and confusion wherever she went. In 1845, a chilling mystery began to unfold at Pensionat von Neuwelke, a prestigious girls' boarding school in Latvia. The unsettling events revolved around a new French schoolteacher by the name of Emilie Sagée. She was known for her warmth and intelligence and had come to the post with excellent references. But beneath her composed exterior lurked a rather disturbing secret. Popular as Mademoiselle Sagée was, both students and staff soon noticed that she seemed to have the rare ability to be in two places at once. Initially, this was dismissed as coincidence, or perhaps evidence of the Frenchwoman's efficiency at her job. But one day, mid-lesson, while Emilie was standing at the blackboard, rumours turned to terror. With a sharp gasp, her students noticed that standing beside her, as if it had materialised from thin air, was a carbon copy of their teacher, a ghostly double that mirrored her every movement with eerie precision. The only difference was that it held no chalk and moved in complete silence, with a creepy, vacant stare. Some students sat frozen in their seats, too terrified to move, while others bolted from the room in panic. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the phantom figure vanished, leaving behind a suffocating stillness and a classroom full of wide-eyed, trembling witnesses. Shortly after this incident, one of the students, a young woman named Antonia, was being helped by Mademoiselle Sagée to fasten her dress. As Antonia turned towards a nearby mirror, she was startled to see not one, but two identical reflections of Mademoiselle Sagée, both assisting her with the task. But it didn't stop there. Emilie's doppelganger grew bolder. It often appeared at unexpected moments, usually when Emilie was tired or unwell, lending weight to the rumour that it was feeding off her very energy. Once, in the middle of a sewing lesson, Emilie was helping a student with her stitches when her spectral double appeared again, this time standing directly behind her. Emilie herself seemed unaware of the apparition, though her face turned pale and her movements slowed as if the presence was draining her life force. The strange occurrences only grew more frequent. Sometimes the double mimicked every move perfectly. Other times it acted in ways that were unsettlingly different. The most chilling incident occurred one afternoon when 42 students were gathered in a vast hall, quietly working on embroidery. Through the large windows, they could see Emilie Sagée strolling in the garden picking flowers, her favourite pastime. Another teacher had been watching over them, but stepped out, leaving her chair momentarily empty. That emptiness didn't last long. Without warning, Emilie Sagée's figure appeared in the chair, motionless, her eyes vacant. The students, horrified, glanced back at the garden. There, Emilie Sagée still stood, but her movements were unnaturally slow, as if something was draining the life from her. Tension filled the room as the students shifted uneasily between the two figures, the one in the garden and the eerie, silent presence in the chair. Frozen with fear, they watched the apparition remain still, as if aware of their gaze. Two of the bolder students, hearts pounding, dared to approach it. They later claimed to have felt a strange resistance, like brushing against a cold, fragile fabric. One student passed through part of the figure, her breath catching in her throat, but the ghostly form didn't react at all. The air grew thick with dread until slowly the figure faded from the chair, dissolving like mist. In the garden, Emilie Sagée suddenly stirred back to life, her movements quick and purposeful, as if nothing had ever been wrong. But the students knew better. Something unnatural had been sitting among them. Rumours of witchcraft and curses spread rapidly through the school. Parents, horrified at the stories their daughters told, began withdrawing them in droves. After 18 months, when only 12 of the original 48 pupils were left, and it was clear that nothing could be done to stop the growing hysteria, the school board found themselves with no choice but to dismiss Emilie. Unsurprisingly, this wasn't the first time Emilie had been forced to leave a school as a result of her sinister double. Over a teaching career that spanned just 16 years, she had worked at no fewer than 19 different schools, accompanied each time by her unwelcome doppelganger, trailing terror in its wake. What made Emilie's case even more terrifying was that she never actually saw the apparition herself. She only heard about it from the frightened accounts of those who witnessed it. Some said the doppelganger was a reflection of her soul. Others believed it was a dark force trying to possess her body. Whatever it was, its presence brought with it a bone-chilling sense of dread that no one could explain. What makes Emilie's experience a lot more unsettling, however, is the fact that her doppelganger lingered in plain sight for years, witnessed by many, but never fully understood. It's said that after leaving the school, Emilie went to live with a sister-in-law who had several quiet children of around 3 to 4 years old. Apparently, they were all aware of their aunt's disposition, often referring to her as the two Aunt Emilies. Her tale, nevertheless, leaves us with an unsettling question. What if we too have a shadowy double, waiting just beyond our view, watching? If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more about history's most chilling paranormal events, please make sure to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And remember, sometimes your worst fear may be a reflection of yourself.